Hey guys, we're back.
Guys, episode 20.
Sweet. Yeah, I was counting them today, going, is it the proper number? And I look back at the old ones, and I'm getting better at looking at the old playlists on YouTube to see if it's an accurate number. I'm 99.9% sure it's accurate.
Yeah, we're pretty sure this is the 20th episode.
Yeah,
If it is,
actually,
make sure you celebrate.
we're done so well that another fan has stopped by, left us a message just to sort of say, well done.
Okay, folks, glad you are here. This episode promises to be a real barn burner that will knock your socks off. So stay tuned and enjoy this week's episode of the Boba Joe Show.
That was real nice of Jim Ross to just stop by and leave a message for us.
That was really nice.
Yeah.
Much nicer than that other fella who left a message.
Oh, that other guy. Oh, jeez. Don't even mention him. But we've got a good classic family film to talk about tonight. It is, of course, Five Go Mad in Dorset, about Cenobites on holiday in the countryside. It's fun for all the family and all ages. Very appropriate. Get all your kids out there. Sure, they won't be scared whatsoever. No, that's not the real film we're talking about.
No, but you have planted the seeds now for me to rewatch both Event Horizon and Hellraiser.
Yeah. It's like a double feature. It's like anytime I think of one, I think of the other one. No, we're actually talking about a classic movie, Deadly Kung Fu something. Hang on, I've got a clip here before we get into it. So is that the newest Marvel film about some 70s kung fu guy? I'm a bit confused by that clip, to be honest.
I don't know, man. It looks too good to be a modern Marvel movie.
Too good. There we go. But no, we are actually talking about Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger, who also left us a message this week.
I don't just like to jingle some of the way. I like to jingle all the way. With Austrian Oak Lager, you make every day of the year like it is Christmas.
And unfortunately, the voice clones will not do proper Austrian accents or non-UK or non-American accents, so it sounds a bit weird. But it was the best we could do at short notice.
No, we must give praise to the voice clone. It does an excellent job at many.
The Jim Ross one, though, I love it.
Oh man, that was perfect. That was perfect.
I might be using it for a certain narrated book feature about computer video games from the 80s, where he's got to narrate an entire book.
Excellent. I look forward to it.
I could just go to sleep listening to his voice, man. It's just so soothing to listen to.
Good old JR. Yeah, we'll have to get him back on.
Jingle All the Way with old Arnold.
Is this like a Christmas classic for you, Johnny? Is it like a yearly festive movie you like to throw on, or?
Yeah, I watch it. If not every year, at least every other year, I do come back and watch this again. And I'm definitely a mark for some of the movies that were. I mean, I watched all the Arnold movies as a kid in the 80s, and then into the 90s, it was sort of diminishing, lesser returns, and by the time you got to stuff like End of Days, I'm like, that's it, man. I'm checking out. I want to watch no more of this stuff. But the things before that, though, like Last Action Hero, which I also saw in the cinema, and Jingle All the Way, I just laugh every time I watch these movies. They get me in the funny bone every time, and there's some really cool people in the cast here who have been in lots of other fun things. Do you want to tell us about some of these folks, or pick who your favorite is, or you want?
Well, I always chuckle when I see, is it Martin Mull? He's the principal from Sabrina, the Teenage Witch. That's what I always just think of when I
and
see
he was
him.
On Roseanne for many years as well.
That's right. Of course, young Anakin Skywalker, local Tatooine,
the Star Wars kid,
pod racing champion. Jim Belushi, who is actually he's not in the movie enough, I wish Jim Belushi was actually nearly the main villain
Yeah,
of the movie. I think they could have reworked the whole thing
this is
just
a
around him.
unofficial sequel to Red Heat.
Oh yeah, which maybe should go down on the list for a future Boba Joe.
Yeah, I think so. I love that movie. Can you guess who are my
Kind of.
two favorites other than Arnold? Who are my two favorites out of this lot? Take a guess.
If I had to guess, I would say. Oh, say so. Other than Arnold Schwarzenegger, I would have to say for
Yeah,
you, your two
pick
favorites would
any two
be
other than Arnold. Who are my two favorites?
Harvey Korman and Jim Belushi.
You picked one of them, not the other one. He'd be my third. Harvey Korman, Phil Hartman, probably my favorite too for just like comedic films and TV shows. But Belushi would be third, or even equal with those guys. Like not splitting hairs. And the Big Show
Phil
is very
Hartman in
entertaining, of
this,
course.
I just want to kill Phil Hartman's character in this movie every time I watch it.
he's so horrible.
And yeah, Big Show, a pre-Big Show, I think. Because
Yeah,
what year is
he was
this?
WCW
1995?
giant era Big Show. You can see in the film too. He's a bit smaller because he got quite a bit heavier later on in the post 2000.
Yeah, he's still going through his "I'm the son of Andre the Giant" phase of his career.
Yeah. And Sinbad, of course, who was not originally cast in the film, but he did some audition, apparently stuffed it up, but they liked him so much they got him back to redo the audition again. And at the writing stages, they did actually want to cast Joe Pesci in that same role, which I can see working because the producers and directors have worked on other films like Adventures in Babysitting and Home Alone. So it's, a similar kind of tone and style to this film.
Yeah, he definitely works Sinbad, but I would love to peer into like an alternate universe and just see Joe
Yeah,
Pesci.
just reading that, I'm like, give me that film, man, Joe Pesci.
Yeah, because there's even a moment. It's funny that you mentioned Home Alone, because the Chris Columbus produced this as well, and there's a moment in Home Alone where Joe Pesci's character, he does that famous slip on the ice where he literally just you see his whole body go up in the air and then he does a big flat back bump. Like Sinbad takes an almost identical fall in this movie, and it's even shot the same way. And I was actually, before I even knew that like Joe Pesci was even thought about to be cast or anything like that, I was kind of almost visualizing that moment from Home Alone because the way it was shot, it must have been a deliberate tribute to that moment in Home Alone.
And Sinbad in this film is like a poster worker, but he wears that like goofy hat with the flaps, which also makes you think Home Alone with the goofy hats. Yeah. And you also got Rita Wilson in this film, who I struggled to think of anything else she'd been in, but I had a quick read on old IMDb, and her career post this, she went on to be a fairly significant producer on quite a few projects, but acting-wise, we don't see her in a whole lot of the stuff, but she's definitely got the talent on the screen here.
Yeah, no, she's good, and it's one of those things where it's not like you're coming away from the movie thinking, well, her character was really memorable or anything like that, but she definitely does everything well and suits the role. It's like the classic movie mom.
It reminds me of like when Jamie Lee Curtis is like Arnold's wife in True Lies, and that kind of a similar, like you've got to be the domestic wife, ordinary person. So there's not a whole lot you can do with that role, And of course, there is Boba Joe who pops up. I don't know if he's in this film, but he's popped into the slide here thanks to Bjorn.
Yeah, he's if you squint really hard at the parade at the end,
might be in the parade. That's what I thought. I thought put him in there. He could be in the parade somewhere. You don't know.
You can see his reflection in one of the windows.
We'll get into the first slides here. Start of the film.
We're watching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah, we sure are. And like, even if you're not a Power Rangers fan, I mean, you watch this and it's so clearly influenced by the whole style of that. But ironically, obviously done on a bigger budget just to do this sequence to make it look like it's on a small budget.
It's actually very well done. This opening.
Oh, it is.
Kind of credits and introduction because. Yeah, like you said, it's almost got that TV grain quality kind of look to it as well.
Some
like
kind
it feels like you're watching
camera or something like that. And
yeah, it could easily be like you could easily be watching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers right slap bang in the middle of the 90s.
Yeah, they do the style very well, and even like the puppet costume of the Booster, the pink saber-toothed tiger character, he just feels like perfectly like a, low budget tokusatsu live action sort of man in a suit jumping around and going oh, and the kids singing. Like they got the style, really did it really well.
Yeah. Booster.
Why do they
You
call
got
him
the
Booster?
impression.
I don't know.
I don't know. It just, for some reason, just because obviously later on in the movie it's mentioned that everybody hates him, like hates that character. I just got that.
I like it better than Turbo Man.
He just reminded me of that episode of Simpsons where they introduced Poochie to Itchy and Scratchy.
Yeah,
I just got a real Poochie vibe.
But yeah, this opening sequence, just checking out my old show notes, cheat notes on the side here. So I'm looking sideways. This particular section was filmed like separately in California as opposed to other parts of the film were filmed in the Twin Cities. So it was filmed in, what the hell I say that, Vasquez Rocks in California and Canyon Road. And it's a fairly iconic backdrop or scene used in many films and TV shows over the years. The one I always go to is original Star Trek with Captain Kirk. And probably second after that, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, because they pretty much riffing on the Star Trek in that scene. But it's in loads of films. It's in MacGyver, A-Team, Blazing Saddles. It's in the Flintstones live action movie, which is related to the guys that made this movie. So it's a very popular spot to go film thing because it looks great and it doesn't cost you too much to get out there and drive away from the city and get out to these beautiful rocks and desert and whatnot for a cool backdrop.
Yeah, it's definitely an iconic location in TV and cinema, and it's sadly the site of where poor Bill and Ted fell to their deaths.
Yeah. But they played death
it's so
with
well
Twister,
done.
so
we got our first glimpses at our main characters here and into the hard working life of Arnold.
Yeah, I'll pop us out of this so we can get a look at what's going on down all these slides.
Classic kind of that trope of the dad. He's just work and workaholic, complete workaholic. What's his little phrase at the end of every call he takes? You're my number one customer.
Yeah,
you're my number
and there's a
one
nice close up
customer.
of an Apple Mac computer, like the original Apple Mac computers, and the small narrow screens, and before we had giant screens, everything, and it's just all a big listing about mattresses. But I pulled it out because it didn't quite fit with the other stuff in there. But I kind of liked seeing that old Apple Macintosh, and as a kid in the 80s, I remember seeing it was a very popular business computer.
It's just it's weird in this movie seeing Arnold looking just so normal, like just average Joe.
He does it well.
He does it well. He does it well because they try. Well, I don't know how hard they try, but he has appeared in other movies where he's supposed to be like a regular guy. But you always kind of, it's hard to look past just who he is and what he does. But in this movie, they do a pretty good job, at least up until the end where he actually has to start doing all the Turbo Man stuff. He plays it pretty as believable as it would be to see this buff, chiseled Austrian guy, just chilling.
And to put things in context, like Arnold, when he came to America from Austria in the 70s and was in some fairly low budget, dodgy films and appearances, he did some acting lessons. But at the same time he was doing acting lessons, he also got advice on real estate. He started a business with Franco Colombo where they ran around just getting bodybuilders in their spare time to build brick walls, and made a lot of money doing that as a laborer for a year or more. And he made he was a millionaire before pretty much he really even started his film career, just from real estate investments and friendships he made behind the scenes. Like, I've read his biography twice, so that's where that came from. So they do a good job of making this this superhuman Superman, Ubermensch, bloody commando, red raw deal kindergarten cop guy, be like an everyman. But the other thing is also he did have a family, of course, and kids that grew up. So he was a father who did have kids, and I won't go into the more sordid stuff, but he was a father as well. He's believably a decent father on screen and that.
Yep, he pulls it off. He's a lousy husband though.
Yeah.
Or is he? Maybe that's the great debate,
Ah,
because look, he's trying to bring home the bread, and
bring
I
home the
suppose his
bacon.
intentions are good. But yeah, you get
Got
that
a
funny
nice
moment where he
little bit of digital there. Your wife online for us. And it has little
I love
responses,
that he
pre-selected things like "I will take the call on hold," or "You deal with this." All pre-selected on these buttons. I wish I had this thing. Just press these buttons. Like I just have like "fuck off" and like every bit of what the call was.
he still delivers the "you're my number one customer" line
You're
to
my
his
number
wife
one
as well, which
customer.
which pisses her off when she calls him
Uh,
at work. So essentially, what's happening here, folks, is that young Anakin Skywalker, who I really need to stop calling Anakin Skywalker, his name is Jamie in this film.
I
So
just call him
Jamie
Star Wars
is
kid or annoying or whatever.
Jamie, please. So Jamie is
little shit.
Jamie has to,
Something. He's got a karate lesson and he's trying to get over
he's
there, but like the lady with the cue cards doing the Bob Dylan thing is going, "You gotta go, you gotta miss it." And he's like, "I'm gonna go." It's like it's too late.
yeah, they refer to it as a karate lesson, but it's really like
Hmm.
some like prize giving type, because he has to like break a block or
Yeah,
something and then get awarded his belt
yeah.
or whatever. So of course our
Get rewarded with a shitty
smarmy
Star Wars movie.
our smarmy Phil Hartman
He's
is gonna
so good
take.
at being just this filthy lech.
Oh man, he just as I said at the start, you just want to get him, and yeah,
He's in
he's just
full
like
like
a
news
slime
radio
ball.
mode in this film. Like he's so much similar to the character in the news radio show.
But of course, so yeah, look, Arnie, he wants to get to the karate prize giving on time, but he's working hard. He's leaving late. He's getting stuck in traffic. Notices that the hard shoulder on the highway
Hmm. I don't know
is
if it's meant to be a
free.
safety bar or carpool lane, but he's not supposed to be driving in there because he's like, haha, I'm going to go in here.
And that's when we first come across the cop who we're going to be seeing
Yeah,
quite a few times.
we're seeing him
Uh,
again.
what do you think of his character?
I love him because at first you're like how many times you've been, I really I just need to get like halfway across town and it's like, this fucking, I don't know, get stopped at a random blockade or breath test or something. I was like, oh, great. Now I'm going to be 30 minutes fucking late on a 10-minute fucking journey. I'm just annoyed. I'm like, oh, I'm with Arnold's side. But later on, I feel more sympathetic for the cop as we get into it because you kind of see his side of things.
Yeah, look, he's a veteran, we have to respect his
Mhm.
contributions to the force. But yeah, so he's late getting to young Jamie's karate ceremony because he gets stopped, he gets ticketed, comes home. His missus is giving him guff for being late and not showing up,
Yep.
and Jamie's not
So the old
speaking to
Turbo
him.
Man on TV.
Yeah, he's trying to bond with him and get him to forgive him. Just this is probably a good time to mention, because there's a lot of good product placement in this movie. I'll say that much. It's always
Mhm.
it's stuff I like looking at, as opposed to like the usual
Oh, that's
crap you see in movies. Like he's got some nice Marvel merch on display here. His bed sheets are pretty cool with his like Wolverine and Fantastic Four gear, and
it's even
his
got
Hulk
Infinity
mask there.
Gauntlet on there. That's very 90s. His
Yeah,
pillow
yeah.
case.
He's definitely a
And he's got a Hulk mask
big
on the door
Marvel
as they
guy.
go in.
Yeah, that's right.
And
He's
he's
got
got
his big
little
Captain
drawings
America.
all over the walls. Like this kid's living the dream, man, as far as having like cool comics and shit and toys and that. He's got a fucking Batman clock next to his karate thing, and then a Batman looks like a little mini statue figure next to the clock as well. And some kind of Power Rangers style monster thing in front of the lamp. I don't know what the heck that is.
The least interesting thing he probably has in that room is anything to do with Turbo Man. You know?
Yeah, and you can tell that's done in the style of a Marvel comic with a little bit in
Oh
the
yeah,
corner. And I don't know who the artist is, but I assume it would have been an actual Marvel artist that did that for the for the fake cover.
yeah. Oh, it's pretty cool. But it's
So yeah, he's
totally
got Hulk,
typical though, because
Spider-Man, Avengers, all the big major icons all over his bedspread. It's cool.
I have to laugh, like, because we're all a victim of these kind of phases and trends and fads
Yeah,
when we're kids, and
I'd
there
be
is
having
that
that
kind of like,
bedspread if I could have that now for sure.
oh yeah, but what I was kind of thinking was I'd be so, I suppose, pleased to have all that Marvel stuff. I don't think I'd care
Oh my
about
god,
Turbo
yes.
Man.
As opposed to some of the crap I has. All
Yeah,
that crappy digital stuff I had, man.
but
No, my Ninja
yeah,
Turtles
we're
bar
all
of
those.
soap, shampoo. I was clean.
Hey, look, I lived it. I lived it. I remember really, really wanting those Power Rangers toys in the 90s. Even though I was only kind of lukewarm on the show, all
Mhm.
I wanted was the toys. I just thought they were the coolest thing. And the ads were just on TV constantly.
Yeah.
So it
I
gets to
never
you as
never
a
was
kid.
into the Power Rangers, but my younger sister was at an age where she loved it and she had some toys. And I didn't care for the show, didn't care for the toys, but years later I saw how cool these transforming robots were because they weren't in the stores, but all the good Bandai ones, um, like the big bloody, like the one looks like Godzilla and the big white one looks like a Brachiosaurus or whatever. Those ones are awesome and worth crazy money now.
Yeah.
And the original show, or not original show, but there's multiple bloody shows in that series right back to the 70s. But you can go on YouTube and see some of those shows for free with the proper subtitles. And they're fucking fantastic. Like the production on them is amazing and the stunts and the effects. I like the original show a lot better than Power Rangers without the bloody Saved by the Bell style teenager shit in it, which what turned me off.
Yeah, you can't fault them for their action sequences, but
No.
the
But at the same
American
time, I
acting.
respect what they did with Power Rangers. It was very smart of Haim Saban to recut that show, and they were trying to do that since the 70s. They were going, let's make this thing and bring it to America. And Stan Lee as well was originally involved way back when they did those crossover Toei Marvel projects. So it was a good product and a good idea to do what they did. I just like the original show a lot better. I'll happily watch it with the stunts and the effects and the subtitles.
So we're seeing here that Arnie, he's trying to get young Anakin to forgive him for being late, and
Yeah,
he's just trying desperately to bond with him, and he's
it's got his
he's
Turbo Man
noticing like all
cereal.
he's there he definitely, so he twigs it that look, the kid just loves this Turbo Man guy. He's like reading Turbo Man comics, and he really, really wants the Turbo Man, as he calls it, doll. It's not a doll though, it's an action figure. He wants the Turbo Man
It
action
is
figure for
closer to a
Christmas.
GI Joe though. Like it's a big, like original GI Joe. I mean, it's a big
Yeah,
figure.
it is. It's definitely a Jim Largo scale figure
Yeah,
for sure.
and they did make a toy a long time ago from the film, and it's actually just a replica of the toy that's in the film. Was what came out.
Yeah.
But now they've done another one, and they want to charge you about $100 for it from like Funko or something, like some anniversary bullshit. And I'm like, get out of here! No one wanted to buy that years ago. Just like in the
No.
film. Well, actually, the opposite of the film, where it's selling out in real life, and no one wanted the stand toy. It was Booster in
So
real life.
what is funny though, I guess, is so like he's kind of like, as far as from Arnold Schwarzenegger's point of view, it feels like he's kind of learning for the first time that his kid is like so into Turbo Man. But then like a
Yeah.
moment later, Rita Wilson's like, "So did you get him that Turbo Man that we've been talking about?"
Oh yeah, of course.
Typical man, lol.
And it leads into here where he realizes the kid wants it. It's nearly Christmas and goes on this mad toy run around town trying to find one. And there's some very comical scenes where this is, I don't know what Toys R Us it was shot in, but it's definitely a Toys R Us because it's got bloody McFarlane Spawn figures in there, which weren't sold outside of direct comic shops other than Toys R Us for a short period of time. And we see actual toys of the era on the shelf, like bloody, I'll come back to it in a second. So you can see here, you've got Hercules, Toy Biz stuff, Ghost Rider, Generation X, X-Men, Spawn, Youngblood. All this stuff was actual real toys that are on the shelves from that era. And they get in the big crazy shopping bonanza where they're climbing on the shelves and then collapses on them, and they're running around fighting each other like absolute idiots. And it is a reference to the real life Cabbage Patch mania of the 80s, where people went nuts in toy stores trying to buy the Cabbage Patch Kids. And again, in the 90s, similar thing happened on a smaller scale. People trying to buy the Buzz Lightyear and, to a lesser extent, the Woody toys when Toy Story came out. And Turbo Man is basically like another version of the Buzz Lightyear character with his helmet and jetpack. But his design's got a bit of a 50s throwback, like your Flash Gordon, Adam Strange, and that sort of thing.
That's the Tickle Me Elmo as well, I believe, was a
Tickle Me Elmo. Yeah, that was the other major one. Yeah,
and I know from speaking to my hello, hi Elmo. I
think the batteries are out of there, but this one was actually destined for a dumpster, and I saved it when I was volunteering in the op shop last year. You had all sorts of dirt and muck all over him. I took him home, I put him in a big bag and put him through the washing machine, and now he's perfect. And the battery thing still works. I took that out, separated it so it didn't get stuffed in the water, and he's like new, and I got it for free.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah. No, and I can tell you from speaking to my wife, she actually told me of another mania similar to Cabbage Patch and the Tickle Me Elmo. It was, I suppose, early noughties. It was the popularity of the Teletubbies, and they were trying
my
to.
younger sister was into them.
Yeah, they were trying to get Teletubbies for her niece for Christmas, and they could only find like 2 of the 4 or like 3 of the 4, and apparently there was like practically like what you see in Jingle All the Way, like people crushing each other and like climbing over each other just to try and get these Teletubbies. Insane.
Bloody gladiator style bullshit. Fight each other with toys. Have you ever, in all your toy hunts and times you've been to places, have you ever? I've never experienced anything like this. I've heard in the modern era of grown men, and I'm gonna say fucking white nerdy men because other people probably got more fucking dignity, pushing each other over for bloody Pokemon CCG cards. But other than that, I haven't seen it, but I've heard of that happening.
I've never ever experienced anything like it. Now, that being said, like
my closest
I
thing, I've been in the action figure aisle, and there's someone who was like a Hot Wheels guy, and we kind of did an awkward shuffle. I'm like, well, I'm looking at action figures, and he's looking at we didn't say nothing, but with the eyes.
Funny, yeah, Hot Wheels is always the section in Smith's that's always the messiest because it's always got like at least 2 guys rummaging through what's there and like looking for specific stuff.
Oh, people are tidier here. It's people buy them, but it's tidy. I've seen adults looking at it, but it's always really neat in there.
I've never experienced anything like proper, shoving or both people getting their
I do wonder
hand
how
on the
much
item
it's an
at the same
American
time.
thing, because apparently it happens. Like, I mean, Wilhelm Toy and Hobbies talked about little Black Friday sales and that as a retail worker, this sort of shit. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you will form a line and there's sides and you will follow them around the store.
Like, it's coming up pretty close to Christmas now, and in the next probably few days, I'll be trying to get most of that type of shopping done for buying presents and stuff, at least over the next week, because like I don't want to be anywhere near a shop or a store.
I won't go into them. Once it's December, I don't go into the big shops at all.
Yeah.
Can't get parts
I
or
just
nothing.
can't handle it. Yeah, I can't, like, if there's a big crowd of people, and it's always people who like, just like in this movie, it's like they're always really like rough, and it's like they've never actually been outside. This is the one time a year they've come outside, and they just want everything, So yeah, avoid. But we're also we're getting introduced to Sinbad here for the first time. So
and we get the store employees that when these guys ask them if they have a Turbo Man, the guys just start laughing at the very idea that this late in the year, that the most popular toy that sold out everywhere, that they would have any of them. It starts like laughing at them. And we've got all the pushing and shoving because they think there's some in the store, but they don't know there's none there. And he ends up, when the guy's laughing at him, he's like grabbing them and starts threatening them.
Where's your holiday spirit?
Yeah. And he ends up going on this toy hunt, driving around town, looking at other stores. And every store is sold out of Turbo Man and just has Booster, which is the saber-toothed pink tiger sidekick. And I forget the name of the bloody Megamind bad guy in green, but got his feet. They've got the other two characters, but not the one everyone wants. And it's like, well, it's like Captain America's sold out, and here you've got, I don't know, She-Hulk or something. I love She-Hulk, but it's like they've got some other B character that no one actually wants.
And that's definitely a real thing, because
absolutely,
I do remember as a child.
We've seen it last year. All the fucking Black Panther Part 2, whatever it was called, Wakanda character, those shelf formed. And what was that other terrible movie, the Eternals or whatever? They had nothing to do with the original comic whatsoever.
Everything in that
they're
line
still around now. Nobody wanted those because they weren't objectively bad figures, but it was a bad movie, and so no one gave a shit.
Yeah, unless you're a customizer, they're pretty useless.
Yeah, if you're a customizer like Badger Style or Bjorn Jorgensen, they're good custom fodder for parts. They're reasonable quality parts and sculpts to turn into other things. Are you going to go watch Turbo Man, the motion picture, Mark, in between your toy hunts?
I'm surprised they actually haven't just done that. They probably will do that eventually.
Well, they made that ridiculous, not Buzz Lightyear Toy Story part, technically Toy Story 5, I guess, but it's an offshoot of the character. I didn't watch it. I just saw all the toys that shelf formed.
Yeah, and you see, the thing about a property like this, like Jingle All the Way, is when it came out originally, I suppose it got a little bit of a lukewarm response. Like, it made money, but it wasn't like a mega hit. But now it's kind of become this almost kind of cult classic Christmas favorite.
I think it gets that territory. There were a lot of actual decent fucking films actually out in the 90s, so I had a lot of competition from like genuinely good films. So I would say that's why it got pushed down. Whereas post 2000, we've had a lot of dog shit films at the cinema.
It's definitely aged well.
Yeah, it's just been a massive downturn in cinemas closing down worldwide post year 2000, and less movies made that get to the cinema other than the stupid blockbusters and all that. And so your mid-range and your B movies which were decent and worth watching just don't make it to the cinema most of the time anymore.
Yeah, it's just a big stress fest trying to get this toy. And Sinbad,
I love when he punches the Turbo Man.
Yeah, like
Sinbad, back at him.
He's like a postman. He's also a dad. He's out looking for his.
I just think of Newman and Seinfeld because he's wearing that outfit.
Oh yeah, big time, total Newman vibes. And it's just it's like everybody else seems to be able to grab one of these except for him. But yeah, we've established that there's going to be a little bit of a rivalry between Arnold and Sinbad as they go on this quest to acquire a Turbo Man doll or action figure. As I believe Sinbad actually does correct him at one point in the movie when he refers to it as a doll, and Sinbad's like, "No, it's an action figure."
It's funny because like check out the booster in that insert shot there on the right, and you can see it's just a solid piece that doesn't move whatsoever because I only put it in the box, so it didn't have to do anything. Because I just molded it, and I forget the name of this actress who runs into on the street, but the older lady with the curly hair and that little like green hat and the fur coat, she's like, "Oh, I've got a Turbo Man figure after he can't find anything in the store," and he buys it thinking it's the Turbo Man, and she takes the money, and as soon as he goes to take it out of the bag, she's like, "It's Booster!" And he throws it in the garbage. And I'm like, no, that's a nice toy. Don't throw it in the garbage, you idiot. Even if you don't want it, it's such a waste. I found it paid for.
And look, it's one of those things as well. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid,
It was
you
very
might
funny.
ask for, yeah, you might ask for the main character, but the main character isn't available for whatever reason, so you get like another character. And yeah, sometimes there is that like initial disappointment, but I don't know about you. When it comes to like rebuying stuff from like my childhood,
Mhm.
it's nearly always those type of characters that you kind of you gravitate towards the things you
The
actually
ones you
had.
look
And
look past.
yeah, yeah, it's a weird thing. But yeah, I wouldn't have been
I
throwing
didn't
that
care about
booster in the
Ace
garbage.
Duck back in 1990, but then when I wanted one 5 years ago, I'm like, oh man, now I got to pay a lot more.
Yeah. Why is it so hard to get Ray Fillet?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I still don't have one. Like they've done a reissue just this year. It's out in America, and technically it's out here, but it's on one of those stupid packs of 5 or 6. So I'd have to spend about $200 to get one figure, and I'm like, no, to get one $20 figure.
Yeah, it's not a
I think
terrible
so too.
man. Like you're not going to spend that money.
No, I've almost jokingly bought a Turbo Man over the years because it's famously like just awful. Just like there's nothing wrong with the design, but as a toy, it's fairly awful if you buy the real world. It's like, haha, it's crap and nobody wants it. Oh, that movie, Um, $10, $20. I'm not going to pay $100 for the new recent anniversary one that's out like brand new this year. I'm like, no way.
No
But
way.
yeah, we
No
move
way.
on. I love the shots here where he's driving around town and they just do the little reflective like bones be like driving around like Las Vegas or something, or those movies where people are gambling, all the lights and stuff, and just this desperation like a drug addict on that. He's got to get this damn toy.
It's
So
like what
I'll
we as
skip over here.
collectors just see all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is quite blurry here, but this is exactly how it looks in the film. It's because they just pan past these toys. It's obviously not the focus, or Ghost Rider and Hercules aren't the focus. So it's never in focus in the film. So that's the best shot, but I just wanted to see it, and it does take me back. Like I've seen, I've been going to not just toy stores, because in New Zealand where I grew up, we didn't really have toy stores. We just had department stores or Kmart type shops that had clothes and other gun bullshit and some toys. But I've been going to like the toy section since I was like 8 years old in 1988, and there's like at least once a month since then I've been in some fucking toy section somewhere. So I've seen all this stuff come and go over the years, and I did really like getting to see the 90s toy biz stuff there. But yeah, it leads us into the next scene. We get some good phone acting. There's quite a bit of phone acting with home phones and pay phones in this film, which I do enjoy seeing compared to bloody modern phones. Bit of phone acting, and then later it leads us into they go into the big Mall of America, also home of the debut episode of WW Monday Nitro.
Yes,
And
I'm
we get
glad
the
you
fun
didn't miss
scene.
that one.
Yeah. No, when I was looking up the notes, I knew it was Mall of America, and I had to look up, is there more than one Mall of America? I'm like, no, it's it's the Mall of America rather than a Mall of America. I didn't know if it was like a chain of them, because like here in Australia, we've got like a whole chain of different malls and shit. No matter what state you're in, they just call them the same thing. But yeah, I did look it up, and it's the same Mall of America that the old Eric Bischoff and Lex Luger and whatnot debuting in the first episode of Nitro, which I thought was pretty cool. Was how it just makes me think of this film as well.
It was also the Mall of America that this movie was shot in, was also once the location of Hulk Hogan's Past the Mania restaurant.
Oh, the pasta, was it?
That's a real thing. That's a real. He had a restaurant, Past the Mania, and
I remember
I
the
believe it
clips
closed
from the
down.
wrestling where they showed it, the pasta maker and all the kids. He's like, yeah, and I'm like, it's like you're eating fucking raw eggs, you bastard. You're not eating pasta, mate. You had all these carbs and shit to get that physique. I just loved it. It's like, yeah, he's promoting carbs, but he's eating bloody meats and vegetables and raw eggs to get steroids like fucking candy, of course, back then.
Yeah.
That's what all these balls throwing up are. That's how many steroids he's having.
Yeah, this scene with the balls. So
I
yeah,
love this,
basically
just this practical shoot in the mall. So good.
It's so good. It's so good. So the whole premise here is that this particular toy store has gotten a limited quantity of
Yeah,
Turbo Man dolls in stock, and they're going to
like a
do a
Walmart amount,
lottery.
like one or maybe two.
Yeah, and it's a one per customer type deal, and you have to have one of these numbered bowls in order to claim one. So of course, chaos ensures, and there's this mad scramble of everybody trying to get the ball. I will say though that the
It's like a lolly
the guy
scramble when
who's
you're a kid. They throw it up and
yeah, it's like free money, yay! Like, but
yeah, and
the
there's
guy
old
who's
Sinbad on the ground.
yeah, Sinbad gets like a proper crush here. But the
Yeah,
dude, it's one of those things. Do you ever kind of sometimes find yourself like, trying to place yourself in these type of situations? It would get pretty intense. Like if people were like literally like grabbing something out of your hand or like trying to like choke you to get something that you had, like you can see how that shit could turn pretty nasty
yeah.
really quickly. Like, emotions run. Like I know in this
I've never
movie it's
had
done for
someone.
comedic effect.
Yeah, I can see how it would get nasty and like bloody British soccer riots and that sort of shit could turn deadly. Even I've never had someone try and snatch something out of my hands in the store. Like I have had people like push past me and be rude or nasty and shit like that. But I'm like, if I had something, if I'd driven across town and I picked something up, someone ran past and snatched me out of my hand, I'd be like, I don't give a fuck, take it. What am I going to fight you for? I don't care. I'd just be like, I want to go home. But if someone just started fighting me for no fucking reason, I'm like, I'm gonna knock their fucking ass out or smash it or throw them on the ground or something and then leave. I don't care about the toy or whatever the fuck it is.
It's funny as well because the guy running the store is like, well, due to the laws of supply and demand, it's
Yeah,
like going to triple the price of the figure.
yeah, I love that, and I love they really ham up just all the store employees and the people. They're just kind of like grimacing and laughing. You go, ha ha! You think you're gonna get a thing, but you're not, you idiots! And which is the opposite. Like I will say, like in New Zealand there was no Toys R Us, but when it came to Australia, there used to be a few here, but they're all closed down famously when went bankrupt and all that. Which went bankrupt in America, not in Australia, but they still closed them down here anyway for whatever reason. But when I used to go there, the employees there were great. The people are friendly, really nice. I used to go on many years ago to Perth City. There was a True, and there was a girl in there who collected Care Bears. And every time I saw her in there, she'd just talk to me and chat me at the counter, and would just not chat me up. I mean, just friendly, like just talking that. I'd go and look at the McFarlane Spawn. This is like 2002, 2003. They still had McFarlane Spawn in there and all the Marvel shit. And they had the first ever bloody masterpiece Transformer, which they called MP1 Optimus Prime. They had that in the store. I remember seeing that, and that was like $100. Thinking, wow, that looks amazing. I'd love to have that, and I could not afford to buy it. And man, I wish I'd bought that back then. But the True employees were great. They were really nice and often overworked, and they worked hard, did a lot. The opposite of what you see in the film, which is why I love in the film, they make them just all complete assholes, and it's why it's so funny because it's not true. It's not true that they're true.
Yeah, it's like oftentimes the people
It's like we're going
working,
to EB
especially this
Games.
time of year. But like, a lot of these guys, like in real life as well, like a lot of the time, it's probably like temporary staff. They've hired them for
Yeah,
Christmas. They're
yeah,
being
Christmas. Yeah.
treated poorly. You're working long hours because
Hmm.
you're trying to cover all the big shopping blitz, and
You're
most of the
trying to
time
get
you're
your
just trying
1/18
your
scale
best.
figures.
Yeah, you don't want to get into scale wars with anybody.
No, definitely not. I do love the sequence here. Well, for two reasons. One, we get a lot of fun comedy. It's very physical comedy, or like in that kind of 30s, 40s old time movies and some era Charlie Chaplin kind of comedy that works very well. But also, you just get a fucking shit ton of actual toys and big, amazing Lego display in the middle of the ball, and Arnold running like a big idiot. One of these balls bounces away, and he just chases it all over the mall as it goes down the bloody escalator. He climbs over there. He runs through the Lego display, and it bounces all the way into there somewhere, and some kid gets it and sort of laughs at him, and he ends up in the ball pit. But it's such a funny scene. But I just love seeing all the practical, all the Lego and cool toy stuff. It's just a beautiful scene to watch as well.
Yeah, it's funny watching him getting beaten by multiple women with handbags who are calling him a
Yeah.
pervert as well for trying to grab their child. Which once
Yeah,
again,
he'll get some
imagine
action hero stuff soon.
imagine those seeing that, like a big Austrian dude jumps into the
Yeah,
ball
big
pit trying
bodybuilder,
to
man.
grab your child by the shoulder, you know.
Yeah, leaping off the escalator, running, knocking around children. I just
And
think
of
he's a
course, we
maniac.
meet Santa. We meet Jim Belushi's Santa, and what a
And
character
Mickey
he
from
is.
Seinfeld. Santa's a
It's
commie.
some dodgy dealings going on here. You know, he twigs that Arnold is looking for a Turbo Man, and
Yeah,
well, you know, he just
that's probably
happens
my
to know
favorite
where
scene
you
in the
can
movie.
get one. Oh yeah, mine easily. It's the best part of the whole thing for me.
Like, this is where it goes from
I just
just
love
like,
it.
this is another Christmas family holiday comedy caper. This is where it goes kind of National Lampoons are a bit weird and just over the top. Like, what the hell is going on in this scene?
Because you know, and it really does show the lengths he's willing to go to acquire this. Because
Yeah.
first of all, like he asked for like a couple of $100 or like $300 or something like that, which he is willing to give over, but he's also willing to travel to that dodgy warehouse,
Dodgy
like,
side of
and like while
town.
the
Yeah.
guys, yeah,
He's
it's
got the
like
dog and a guard, fence with barbed
it's
wire.
so it's just brilliant. And then like
And you
especially
get
see
the
it like because
little
you've got
Santa in the little face slot. Like, every time it's like a movie where they've got to see a gangster or buy drugs, there's always the, it's like the organized crime face door.
it's classic, and
And you've even got little
I
kind of
love
like secretary ladies as you go in for this like criminal empire of Santas, of mall
yeah
Santas.
counting the loot. And once again, for the second time in this movie, I do kind of cringe a little bit when I see a toy being thrown away, because even though
Yeah,
the Turbo Man that they hand them is like a Mexican bootleg,
yeah, I
and it
love it.
falls
And that's
apart easily.
actually a good reference to real well, I'm gonna assume Power Rangers, but definitely Marvel and Avengers shit, where you've got the voice chip and it's supposed to be like, I'm Captain America, but it's like, hey, and it says like the wrong language, but it's meant to be the English. Like, that's a real thing that
Yeah,
comes up a lot in the world of actual bootleg toys. And I'm a bit of a bootleg toy buffet over the years. I've followed different products in that, but also just factory defects where the wrong chip has been gone to the wrong country and it should be a factory defect, not sold, and people are selling it.
I probably would have kept this. I would have glued it back
I
together and
love a
just
bootleg toy
attached it.
or a wrong
Same
chip
here.
thing that says the wrong language for what's meant to be. Or they're even better
But
than that. As if you get like a Hulk and it's got like a Speedy Gonzalez voice or something, it's the wrong character as well as the wrong language. But yeah, this scene is awesome. We got all the mall Santas running the criminal empire of selling all these illegal toys of things that people can't get a hold of. Arnold just cracks his shit with Jim Belushi, who starts taunting him. He pulls his beard, which is on the elastic. It snaps back and knocks him away. And he falls over in real kind of like silent movie slapstick style. He goes like falling stupid distance. Then it immediately cuts, and it immediately cuts from Arnold just knocking this guy over to a kung fu flipping in Santa who's got candy cane nunchucks, and then all of a sudden it's a Bruce Lee film with all the Santas that are like surrounding Arnold.
yeah, it's quality.
It's like the Chinese Connection or Big Boss. It's like early as Bruce Lee, where they're all going to fight him one by one, and I just
And
love it.
this is where we're straying into the comfortable Arnold territory now, because he gets to do
Yeah,
plenty of kind of physical action where he's
yeah,
actually the guy, taking care of business, because he dispatches with all of these kind of Santas in classic fashion. So he managed to take out the kind of nunchuck guy, but also as well when our good old friends, the Giants, the Big Show makes an appearance, and his little small friend as well, who is I believe a
Vern Troy.
famous small person. That's right. That's right.
He's in Austin
Um,
Powers. There's
yeah.
Mini-Me.
So Arnold, he's big and small. It doesn't matter the size of the dog in the fight. He's going to take you on, and it's just
Like
so
Arnold's
funny.
wide
It's just
and
so
shorter, whereas Big Show is much taller and definitely heavier. And I just love, man, every time I watch this, the first bit here where it goes from the nunchuck Sandra, they all surround him. And then when he grabs his candy, first he's scared, then he grabs the candy cane. He's like, ha ha, he's like a maniac. And he's like all of a sudden it's Matrix or Commando. He just starts swinging and knocking them all over. I just lose it every time, man. Like, I just laugh so hard. Just think it's so comical, this giant candy cane. And he's so happy to be like smashing all the frustration of trying to get these toys. He's got these stupid Santas that just like taking all this frustration and smacking them around.
yeah.
And it's so wrong, but it's so right when you watch it. It's just it's hilarious.
It's so ridiculous. It just becomes awesome.
It's very much
so
slapstick
crazy.
comedy. It's just over the top and crazy. And you got all the stupid toys in the background and people getting knocked over. And it's like a bloody Tupelo concession stand brawl and Memphis wrestler. People are falling into tables and knocking shit over everywhere.
There's definitely an element, once again, of some kind of real life stuff especially when it comes to knockoff toys and kind of cheap imitations things. Because I do remember as a young kid being brought to those fake shopping center Santas, and you would come away with a toy that was always like off-brand. It was like Spider Boy or
Transformers,
that type
robots.
of stuff. Yeah, that type of stuff. It's like
5-in-1 robot.
it looked kind of similar from a distance, but once you actually opened it up, it was like not quite what you were
It just
expecting.
crumbles in your hands.
Yeah, so there is something going on in the background there. Oh, and of course, the big bust now, the big raid by the cops.
Love the raid.
I love the way as well. Like he's quick on his feet. He's able to quickly pick up a little plastic police badge and pretend
Bootleg
he's
police
like
badge.
he's like undercover.
Like, what are you doing? I've been working this undercover operation for months. You idiots, you're busted in here.
Yeah, he goes a bit Detective John Kimball here. He breaks out the cop speech.
Kimball. It's not October.
No, but look, he manages to escape unscathed, while all the knockoff Santas get busted.
Poor Mickey, man. Mickey's dangerous. It takes not one, not two, 3 guys to carry him out. First.
And speaking of Mickey's, we go to Mickey's dining car.
Yeah, Mickey's dining car.
Because he's gonna have a little.
His car's broken down. He's pushing it.
Classic Christmas bad luck stuff happening. Really, like he ran out of petrol and stuff, and which is weird. I kind of at near the beginning of the movie, Phil Hartman's character makes a comment to him. When he's driving off to go find the Turbo Man, he makes a comment about, you should put chains on those tires. The very first time I watched this movie, I assumed that something was going to happen where he'd bust the tire or the car would slip on ice or something. I thought that was going to come back on him, the fact that he'd been advised to do that, but then he didn't. But no, he just turns out he ran out of petrol and has to push the car instead.
But it gets worse than that in a cutaway shot later on, as you see.
Yeah. Yeah, the car that
we get
up.
Phil Hartman. They're doing the Christmas carols in the yard or whatever, and Arnold's calling up the son Jamie, and he's also talking to Sinbad in this diner here, and they have a kind of little heart to heart where they're kind of buddies for a moment, but then a moment later they're like fighting each other again, and you get the sense that maybe that if it not for this Turbo Man crap, maybe they could have been friends.
Yeah, in a different world, they may have been friends. Yeah, because he even gives them a wee sip of some liquor there as well.
He pulls out a little flask, like in the old westerns, pulls his flask out and shares it with them, and And it's a bit of heart to heart. It's like, oh well, we both didn't get the toy, but then, oh, there's news about another possible toy somewhere else, and they go nuts again.
Yeah, so they hear on a radio broadcast that the local radio station is giving away like one free Turbo Man doll to the first caller, and the guy serving coffee in the diner happens to mention that it's only like a couple of blocks away. So they both leg it out of there. We get this insane moment where the radio DJ dude is like sitting in his booth calling the show, and Arnie kicks in the door, like smashes the
he just
window.
busts in the door like an absolute maniac, like it's the Running Man or something.
And he answers the phone in question, which I think, what is it, to name all of Santa's reindeers or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. He's like, I know the answer.
But it's soon explained to him though that they don't actually have a Turbo Man doll on hand. What you would actually win is a certificate. They have a certificate where you can claim a Turbo Man doll once they become available
again. It's a bloody Star Wars Christmas special all over again.
It's the old Kenner Star Wars Christmas deal all over again.
I mean, the toy is not the crappy movie.
Yeah. Here's the piece of cardboard that you can exchange in the shop once the toys are actually made.
Cardboard that bloody CS. It's like, fuck you kids, you ain't get nothing.
So while all of this kind of anarchy has been going on in the DJ booth, he's actually called the cops, who all show up. Of course, it's our usual cop dude who we've seen all these multiple times, but we learned that Sinbad has a bomb, because of course he does, because he's a postman, and postman gets sent explosives and stuff all the time.
That was a thing in this era in America, where there was a thing for a while about bombs going around of the post and postman, and it did show up in media, and Seinfeld and other media at the time sort of commented on it and kind of blew it out of proportion, but it was a thing at the time.
Yeah, and I suppose at least in this movie anyway, they do make light of it, because of course we have the bit where Arnold and Sinbad, they've escaped from the building, and when Arnie's running down the street, you hear a big bang. So you assume it's going to be like, oh shit, that explosion probably like blew out the building. But then we cut.
Instead, it's Looney Tunes.
Yeah, it's exactly. But because we need to keep this movie within its PG, limits. We can't be just like blowing up an entire precinct of cops to get a toy.
No, definitely not. But yeah, it goes like you've got silent movie slapstick, and now we've got Looney Tunes style stuff where a bomb goes off and no one's hurt, but his face is all black. And it's also in the style of like the Naked Gun and Leslie Nielsen sort of thing as well, the way they kind of shoot that scene.
Of course, Arnold's poor SUV has been gutted out. He needs it towed.
Yep.
Just in time to see.
Check it out.
Yeah. And graffitied on as well,
Yeah, and it says like Merry Christmas, and someone's graffitied on the window after taking the tires. They're taking the inner seats, the doors, the rear hatch, and everything's just gone. I'd say the motor's probably gone as well.
Yeah, probably.
It's like waving by the time
it's just the shell,
Just send it back to the factory. It's just a shell. You got to rebuild the whole bloody thing.
To add
and I love that
injury.
That scene is very short, and if you're not paying attention, it just goes past. And I actually rewound the movie and watched it, and I went, the whole car is just gone. They don't even mention it in the film. He's just like, oh, my car broke down, I'll get it towed. But when he gets it towed, by the time he's gone in and left this dodgy area part of town, the whole car's been stripped to nothing.
And after all that, to have to come home to seeing Phil Hartman putting the star on his tree. And here, though, now we get something that I suppose will be morally questionable, but I suppose it has to be said. So very, very earlier on in the movie, Phil Hartman's character mentioned in a kind of braggadocious way that he had
1 week ago.
Exactly, he already bought the Turbo Man doll for young Billy,
or whatever. Who's also a little shit.
Yeah, total shithead, his little kid.
And he's actually, I didn't know until I was looking up the close-ups, his little shit is actually called Johnny.
All right, Johnny. Okay. But yeah, he's got the the Turbo Man doll is safely nestled under the tree. So Arnie has the thought, like, fuck it, he's a dickhead. He's trying to steal my family and my wife.
Yeah,
I'll
and
just
he
steal this
knows that he's
Turbo
trying to
Man.
cozy up to his wife at this point. So that's the other reason that kind of pushes him over the edge, where he's like, fuck it, I'm going to
Yeah.
steal this kid's presents.
Yeah, it's not just it's thievery in an act of vengeance more so than pure
Yeah.
evil. So we'll give him we'll give
But
him an out there, you know.
he runs into the reindeer that Phil Hartman had earlier in the film, which you can tell is just a really dodgy puppet, but then there's some inserts where it's a real animal. And the reindeer comes running through the house for no particular reason, and he gets scared of him. But then he gets so pissed off at him after that he just punches it full on in the face and knocks the reindeer out. And anyone else you'd think, no way, but it's Arnold. And I'm like, well, he's a big guy. He probably could.
Oh yeah. Well, look, we've seen him knock out a camel in Conan. I'm pretty sure I've seen him punch a
Mhm.
horse in another movie as well. You know, he's got a bit of a reputation for KOing animals, does Arnold.
But yeah, I
Of course,
love this. Is probably one of my other biggest laughs in the film, actually. My two biggest laughs are when he swings the candy cane at all the Wall Sanders and the Bruce Lee homage, and this scene here where they've got down, I presume it's the old Mary, Joseph, and Jesus type nativity scene display in Phil Hartman's house. And after he steals a present, he accidentally knocks over one of the displays, and then he accidentally sets it on fire and tries to put it out. And when he's trying to put it out, he like soccer balls it right through the window into the carolers outside, who see the decapitated head of what's basically like I think it's meant to be the Joseph head because it looks like a male head, comes flying out in a ball of flames. It just scares the hell out of them. They go running away.
At this point, like if this had been me this was happening to me in my life and I'd already just had the type of day that he's had, and then I came back and saw how cozy Phil was getting with my missus, I probably would have just not even tried to put that fire out, to be honest. I probably would have walked out the back door with the Turbo Man and like said nothing and be like, next day be like, oh no man, what happened?
Oh well, house on fire.
Yeah. Stay away from my
But
wife.
yeah, I just lose it at the scene, man. Just the scared look of the carolers running like horror movie style away from this flaming head that comes flying at them.
I like the reconciliation between Arnold and the reindeer.
The reindeer.
As well, giving him
Yeah, the
beers.
reindeer. Well, he gives it some booze.
Or guy. Of course, we also learn momentarily as well that they're on their way to the big Christmas parade, but Turbo Man himself is going to be at the parade,
Yeah,
which is a
Turbo
pretty big deal for young Jamie.
Man.
He got a chance to see his hero in real life.
Yeah, and
And
they do.
you
The
get to
parade
see
scenes are awesome.
they are. It's very well done, and you were kind of mentioning, we were discussing before we went on air today, that these parade scenes were actually filmed in California. Is that right? Or they got all the
Yeah, well,
access?
I wasn't quite 100% sure because I was rechecking the notes and like so it's shot in the style of, and these presumably I would say they're actual costumes, not replicas. I would say they're actual costumes they used from the Macy's Day Parade, which is typically held in New York, of course, and it's also the place where the old famous Sonic dirigible went down and accidentally injured someone one time. Comes up in a Console Wars documentary. But the Macy's Day Parade had all sorts of cool, iconic characters like Snoopy and Ninja Turtles and Sonic the Hedgehog or Funky Winker Bean if you watch The Simpsons. But apparently because of the issues about safety concerns while filming with so many people and a big public open space, they went to Universal Studios Hollywood in California, and they used an entire street set that's like a big full-length street that's mimicking the New York street set, and they used 1,500 extras. So for all intents and purposes, this is an actual parade that's recreated within the film, and then they're just filming it like an so it's a film, but it is a real parade. You've got extras who are just real non-actors on the side in addition to the cast. You've got real costumes that they use in the parades, like the Snoopy. I can tell you they didn't make up that Snoopy costume or that Bert and Ernie or Ninja Turtles, because those all existed from real parades before this movie existed.
Yeah, they look like the real deal, and that's an excellent look.
Yeah.
We see the tick there as well
The Tick,
behind
Leonardo. And he's
I
got that
love
grimacing face, which was on the toys
Yes.
of the time, as well as other merchandise.
And it even looks like that costume has a bit of wear. I wouldn't be surprised if it is
Yeah.
the actual costume.
I'd say they are. I'm pretty confident these are actual parade costumes. I don't think they made any of these because these all existed beforehand. And we've got another one here. We've got old Paddington, one of my favorites. Got a little Paddington up on my other room, actually, who looks real nice with a little coat and hat. So he looks pretty cool. And we've got Sonic. We've got Hello Kitty. We've got Bert and Ernie, but he was in the other smaller shot, but he's obscure behind the Crayola crowns. There's a Duplo Lego Man and Cat in the Hat, Raggedy Andy, and a Cabbage Patch thing. And they all look pretty good, except the Hello Kitty. The head's awesome, but the body's, it's just kind of nothing. That's wearing like pajamas or something.
Yeah, I'd say it was
And
just
the
like
Rock'em Sock'em
grab
Robots.
something. Got Cat in the Hat there. Yeah, I had mistaken on my most recent watching the green Rock'em Sock'em robot. I thought they were trying to rip off a G2 Megatron, but I was wrong.
It's the same color. It's the same colors. Got the orange
Yes.
and the green.
I was reaching, hoping there'd be a connection, but I was wrong.
It's just nice to see robots in a parade, no matter where they're from.
Yeah. We now also see those well because good old Phil has driven them to the parade, and he's about to make his his creepy move, because the whole time he's been trying to like put forth this whole vibe of, oh, I'm such a considerate guy and I always think of everything, and he's there, insinuating this, Rita Wilson can do much better, and it's okay if she wants to
Yep.
cry and tell him how bad a husband she has, and he'll be there, he'll be the shoulder
And
to cry on, and then he takes it a little bit too far, and he
they're
puts his
shown
hand
earlier
on
in
it.
the film that he's been successful with other wives whose husbands are too busy, when there's little winks and nods at the karate thing where people are like, hey, it's that guy. There's little things where he's shown he's been successful listening before, and he assumes this is just another conquest. He's going to go and mess with somebody's wife and other people's lives, and he doesn't give a fuck about any of them. He's just playing games with them.
Yeah, he's quite the dickhead, because it's mentioned earlier as well. I think when he brings like the reindeer out in the street and stuff, and all the kids are gathering around, and little Anakin Skywalker is like, "Oh, your dad is so cool," and then Johnny's like, "Yeah, he's only been acting like that since he got a divorce," and it's like, ooh,
Yeah. And I do like that. Earlier in the film, where Arnold sees his wife Rita Wilson with Phil Hartman, he's like, that's my star. What's he doing with the tree? He doesn't see that immediately after he looked away, that she's like, oh, that's my husband's star. Take that off. You're not supposed to be doing that. And then in this scene, she goes, when he does a bit of the old stop and fresh George Costanza senior style in the car here, getting a bit handsy, she turns around and takes his thermos full of hot coffee and full on just smacks him in the face with no hesitation. Smacks him in the face, and Phil Hartman totally sells it. He's like, oh, and his head's knocked way back. And then he's covered in, he doesn't show the pain really, but he's covered in what's hot coffee or eggnog or whatever on his face as well. And you can see his glasses are bent completely sideways. So she's standing up to him and not being this like useless victim or whatever. She's actually going, no, this guy's a piece of shit. He's gone too far, and just smacks him in the face. And it's so good.
Yeah, love to see it. Love to see it. Of course, though, while all this is happening, Arnold's rushing around and he accidentally runs into that cop again. This time, knocking loads of coffee and stuff on him. Of course, we see his hands are all bandaged up as well from getting blown up by that dud bomb earlier. But so lagging it around the place. Arnold, he's trying to get away from this cop, and he stumbles into this kind of staging area where they're getting ready for the parade, and he's nabbed because it's assumed that he is the stand-in for the guy who was supposed to be playing the role of Turbo Man, who we're led to believe has been seriously injured after doing
Yeah.
a practice run in the Turbo Man costume. And he's been injured really badly. He's been paralyzed. However,
Yeah.
as the stage assistant does advise us though that just that morning he showed some brain activity, and that's a really good sign.
Great activity. And I don't know. Also in this scene, the actor who's in the pink Sabretooth costume, I don't know if that's Gilbert Gottfried or not.
Looks,
They only
he
seem
looks
very briefly.
familiar. Yeah, you only see him for, like, you hear the voice a lot, obviously, but in terms of seeing him unmasked, I think this is the only moment you see him
Yeah.
without the
So
mask
I
on.
don't know. Like, it does look like Gilbert Gottfried, who was the voice of Iago and Aladdin, and he's in a shitload of films and other stuff other than that, of course, and has a very distinctive voice as well as stand up. I'd have to look through. It doesn't come up when I look up the official credits for this movie, so I genuinely don't know who it is, but it does look like him.
We'll find out. If anybody in the future is listening to us now and know the answer
Yeah.
to this question, put it in the
Tell us
comments.
the correct answer.
Tell us. And if you don't know, go out and research it and then tell us.
I looked it up several times, but I could not find a definitive answer. And like the shot you see here, it's like you see his face, you hear his voice. It's a bit out of focus because they just go past him, so it's hard to know. And sometimes in films, you do get uncredited cameos from name actors who do a little bit part, not as a job, but just because they were a friend of a friend who's involved in the movie. So it's not an uncommon thing. But yeah, this leads us into the actual back to the parade. Arnold comes up as Turbo Man in the full costume. And what happens next is we get Sinbad, we've not seen for a while, pops up again. And there's meant to be like another actor or, parade actor in costume as the villain. But Sinbad, just from nowhere, he just appears on this rooftop for no particular reason. How he knew to be up there, ambushes the guy, presumably knocks him out or ties him up or something, and then changes into the costume in the space of about 30 seconds somehow, a costume that would take like an hour to put on. And then he takes the part of being the villain in this role here versus Arnold. And not to mention he kind of borderline kidnaps his actual child.
And of course, all this is going down because as part of this Turbo Man kind of display and parade, one
What can I win,
lucky
Mark?
child, one lucky child, one very, very, very lucky child is going to be offered a limited edition Turbo Man. It's Hogan. Limited edition. But so yeah, Sinbad wants this, and obviously Arnold's loving this
It's my
because
limited testosterone, Hogan.
he's already dressed up in the Turbo Man gear, so he knows, look, I'm just gonna point to Jamie in the audience and give him the Turbo Man. But as you've mentioned, Sinbad is on the case. He swings in his full costume to get up. And what's interesting about this is, as we alluded to earlier when the stagehand was explaining how the original Turbo Man guy got really banged up, these costumes seem to be like actual working like weapon systems and stuff because
it's a bit strange.
Like Sinbad is able to actually Sinbad has the firing fist, and the fist actually like comes out of the costume, and then of course
and the Turbo Man has firing discs, which are a different toy feature. You can see in about the middle of the screen, he's getting hit in the head by one of those firing discs.
And what I suppose most importantly, an actual working rocket pack. It was like military grade future technology. He's got the boomerang thing as well, which seems to be a working like device. So yeah, this is big budget stuff. I wonder, is this the stuff from the actual Turbo Man motion picture that we saw earlier on the cinema? Maybe they've used actual props, because look at that parade float, man. It looks so big budget and high tech compared to
Yeah,
anything
well, they
else
built
you've
in
seen.
that setting on the set. They built full scale parade floats for just for this scene.
It looks awesome. It looks awesome. And like, don't get me wrong, like some of the effects are pretty hilarious, like because it's just clearly
Well, the
back
composite
projection and
shots of
stuff.
him when he's floating above the
Yeah.
city look pretty horrible, but it goes by so fast. You just focused on the comedy of him zipping around like a bumblebee out of control in circles and spinning around, and because he can't control the jetpack.
Plus, it fits the that kind of aesthetic that was already set at the beginning of Turbo Man being a
Yeah.
bit of a Power Rangers knockoff, and it will have those type of
Yeah, you got
funky,
Power
old
Rangers,
style
and it's
effects.
going Looney Tunes style again, where he's just zipping around out of control, and like if you ever had a balloon and you untie it and let it go, and it goes and just spins around the room till it falls down. That's pretty much what happens in the scene. He just goes all over the place, and then he smashes into a building, and it feels very much like a video game where your character's just clipping into the wall and it can't move and won't do what you want it to do.
He's glitching.
He should have brain damage or neck trauma, but he just keeps smashing into the wall head first.
And it's one of those things, like say, it's like this wacky Christmas caper that could only happen in a movie. Because, like you said, like Sinbad is an attempted child abductor as well, because he grabs this
Yeah,
young,
yeah, it's
grabs
kind of darker
Jamie,
that way.
like and you're kind of thinking like, well, what are you willing to do? Like, you want this doll so bad, and we
You're
see
gonna
that he
kidnap a
almost
guy's
nearly
child.
does. Yeah, which because and imagine like. So I know, okay, so we're jumping ahead a little bit, but I may as well ponder it anyway.
Mhm.
So obviously, so Sinbad efforts are thwarted. Arnold manages to stop him. He reveals to Jamie that he is actually Turbo Man. Gives him the doll, and we see Sinbad being hauled away to be arrested, and Jamie actually runs up because he hears him saying, "Oh, what am I going to give my son for Christmas? And I failed, and
Yeah,
all this stuff." And he runs up and he gives him the Turbo Man doll in an act of generosity, and also because he now has the real Turbo Man as his dad. But parking that entire nice moment aside, what do you think is actually happening to Sinbad there? Because everybody has just witnessed him now. He's assaulted a man that he,
yeah.
dressed up as to take his place. He's
It's meant to be a fun
like we said,
parade.
he's attempted abduction of a child as well, and he's clearly getting hauled off. I don't think he's going to be seeing his kid on Christmas Day
And
to
he
give him
did
that Turbo Man doll.
a fake bombing of police earlier, which you would
Yes.
call, I don't know what laws they had back then, but I mean, post 2000, that comes under domestic terrorists. They're going to throw you away and forget the key for just even attempting such a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all I know is, well, I don't know, but I reckon this poor Sinbad's kid was probably picking up his Turbo Man doll from the cop station on Christmas Day
Yeah.
because Sinbad was in jail.
Yeah. And we do see the cop again that he ran into earlier. He got the ticket on the highway, and then he accidentally, while he was parked, he reversed his vehicle into a bike, and it turned out to be the cop's bike, who comes out and sees him again. And then the cop runs into him here and does this little salute, like you've rescued this child that some bloody maniac just kidnapped. And he takes his helmet off, and he sees that's that guy that messed with me earlier. He does a little double take, like, whoa. And he
Yeah,
got
you'd
burnt, of
wonder.
course. He's still got the bandage on his hands from getting burnt by the coffee that Arnold spilled on his face and hands.
Yeah, Arnold's going to have some explaining to do himself, possibly in the days after Christmas, when it's finally caught up with him that, he
Yep.
himself caused damage to police property, and
There was a lot of
he
chaos.
just, yeah, and, he did do a lot of breaking and entering into the radio station and stuff. There's a
Yeah.
a
He
laundry list
decapitated
of
Joseph
crimes
and
for
set him
committing.
on fire.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because totally that Phil Hartman character would follow up on that later on. Like the cops would be calling
Yeah.
to the house the next day, and he'd be like, "Oh,
This
my
is going to be
neighbor's
episode of
crazy."
next episode of Judge Judy. Will be like Phil Hartman. Like, my neighbor decapitated my nativity display and stole my kid's present.
And so look, all's happy, all's well that ends well, and we get to the credits. Now, before we started recording, I mentioned to you earlier this on the version of
Yeah.
this movie that I watched
An
on
extra
Disney
scene.
Plus, there was an extra end credits scene, and the extra scene essentially was it's young Jamie. He's sitting, he's playing, in front of the fire or whatever, and Arnold and the missus are chatting, and she's all like, "Oh, I'm really proud of you. You went through so much trouble to actually get Jamie the Turbo Man, and it just makes me really happy to think that you do all that for him, and it's also made me kind of wonder, well, what did you get me for Christmas? What's my present?" And then it just switches to this kind of freeze frame of Arnold looking all panicked and looking into the camera as a kind of ha 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 ha, but also maybe a little cliffhanger as well. But yeah, that extra scene, it was on the version I watched on Disney Plus. You're on mute. You're on mute, Johnny. You're on mute, buddy.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Damn, icon's all the way down there. Okay, so I looked up that scene and I saw it for the first time just now as you were talking, because earlier I could not, it wasn't in the version of the film I watched. It says it existed all the way back on the VHS version as an after credits scene. And then in the comments, and I'll chuck this into our comments on our, when this is recorded and uploaded, I'll chuck a link to this if anyone wants to check out this extra scene can. It says, Jingle All the Way after credits scene on VHS was not part of the theatrical release. It was once again removed and added as a deleted scene on DVD. It was again re-added in the Blu-ray extended cut, which I watched the Blu-ray extended cut this week. It was not in there, so I'm going to assume it's on the Blu-ray probably as a deleted or extra feature or scene. But I watched it just then, and I finally got to see the stupid expression he does, what that you just mentioned.
Well, if
And
anybody is interested, it's definitely on the Disney Plus version. If anybody listening has Disney Plus, you'll find it on that version.
And there's almost no background at all in this scene too, which tells me that it was a kind of unfinalized scene, because the background is super blurry and there's almost nothing there. Good old Disney Plus.
Good old Disney Plus with its nice little Easter egg for a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Now, there is a sequel to this movie, which I doubt we will ever discuss because
Jingle Some of the Way.
Yeah. I haven't even watched it. I just heard it was Drek, and I never had any interest in it.
I didn't know it existed until a couple of weeks ago when I was looking up any kind of notes or connections or anything to do with this film, and it was like Larry the Cable Guy's stand-up comedy. They did some pseudo sequel like more than 10 years later that has no connection to this film. So it's one of those, I don't know, Halloween or Friday the 13th deals where it's like, we own this brand, let's just slap it on something and put it out there. It has no actual connection to this film at all.
Well, at least we mentioned this. So if anybody is willing to give it a try, let us know what you think of it. Because I'm not going to watch it.
I was almost considering watching it, and I went, if it was like a film made within 5 years of the original, I could go, okay, it's some kind of dodgy sequel. And I watch dodgy sequels all day. I've watched so many B grade and Z grade films, it's not funny. But when it's just like nothing to do with it, and it's a decade later, and the actor and the cast and the director, right, just nothing. The only thing that connects it is the name. Like, it's like we had, I don't know, Grimlock Transformers. Let's slap it on a Batman toy and call him Grimlock. I'm like, does that make a Grimlock? Fuck no, it doesn't. It's just we owned a thing and we slapped it on something else. That's all it is. So I went, no, don't bother. I would watch it on a Friday night with a mate. If we're sitting there like getting pissed, I would watch it just to see how awful it was. But otherwise,
yeah, that's probably about the coverage it deserves.
yeah. Like I like dodgy horror movie sequels and other shit when you get a good box set. I'll sit down and watch Friday the 13th parts 1 through 10 over a week any day, or Nightmare 1 through 7, no problem. But when it's just got nothing to do with it, why bother? Anyhow, we'll finish up there, I think.
It was a good show. We're hitting December, so we've got the Christmas jingles started early.
Yep, we're getting in there early. Next week we'll be back. We're going to do what's that? Chevy Chase. He was in New York last week, but where's his next time? Is Christmas or something for him next time?
Yeah, I believe he's due a vacation and hopefully a nice Christmas bonus as well.
Yeah, and we've got to clean
So
the
we'll have to
shitter
wait
out
and
as
see.
well. That's a definite thing we've got to do.
Hopefully he'll get to have a nice, quiet Christmas with not too much drama. But we'll just have to wait and see, won't we?
I'm going to play the end thing here. Catch you next time, folks.
Take care, guys.